Freedom in mind, soul, and body, faith in your words, and pride in your nature. A warm welcome to one and all present here. It is indeed my privilege on behalf of NCC Army, Anna University, to welcome you all for this webinar on India's freedom struggle on the occasion of celebrating 75 years of Indian independence. I find immense pleasure in welcoming our honorable guest speaker, Major Madhan Kumar, who will share his thoughts on freedom struggle. We welcome you, sir. Furthermore, I also extend my warm greetings to our Associate NCC officers, Captain Dr. Suresh Babu A. Welcome, sir. Lieutenant Dr. Padmanabhan Panchu K. Welcome, sir. Lieutenant Dr. Neelagandan R. Welcome, sir. Now, Lieutenant Dr. Padmanabhan Panchu K. will deliver the inaugural speech.
Okay, Jai Hind everyone. So on behalf of NCC Army Wing of Anna University, first let me welcome Major Madan Kumar sir for joining us, and YouTube. We have seen a lot of videos of Major Madan Kumar sir on YouTube, and we are glad to welcome you, sir. Thank you very much for giving us your time and enlightening our cadets. And I hope this session, your talk will enlighten our cadets about how. So this talk is arranged to talk about the freedom struggle of India. So being an opt person to deliver this lecture, I hope our cadets will utilize this lecture and have a good picture or view on what has happened in pre-independence and how it's being transferred to our cadets. So I welcome you.
Major Madan Kumar is an alumnus of OTA Chennai. His social contributions include volunteering for SAF Games in 1999, volunteer in Gujarat earthquake in 2001, of Sadbhavana bringing light to remote villages in Jammu and Kashmir in 2004. He was also a placement coordinator of the batch during peak recession in 2009, co-founder of a volunteer group which did a commendable job during Chennai floods in 2015, and career coach for armed forces and civil aspirants. We welcome you to share your thoughts, sir.
Thank you so much. I've been humbled with the introduction of mine. Thank you so much. To start with, yes, we all would have studied about India's freedom struggle, and ultimately we got independence on 15th of August 1947. The country became an independent republic. So we all know the bits and pieces of history, and most of us, I'm sure, know better than what I know in the India's freedom struggle. So what I'll do is I'll try to cover those untold stories which are not in the textbook, and those unsung heroes and heroines who have never been highlighted for whatsoever reasons it may be. And what was the phase of freedom struggle? Who actually got us the freedom? Yes, we do know about our great leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru. You know, there are a lot of other leaders, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who had spearheaded this entire freedom movement over a period of 5 decades or so. But beyond that, yes, there are a lot of other people. I will not be able to cover each and every one of them. I would give you an overview of how this went, where we were, and a specific story about one hero who has been less known to us. Yes, now coming back to the freedom struggle. So let's take you all possibly some 150 years to 200 years before. If you want to understand the importance of freedom, we all had a golden chance of experiencing it, firsthand during the last lockdown. You are told not to come out of your home. You are told that you cannot move anywhere. You have to stay indoor, and you are only allowed to move out on certain things like buying your essentials, grocery, and stuff. The complete country was locked in. So imagine if this is what the country will be forever. So all of you would have got frustrated. There's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of anger, there is a lot of discomfort while undergoing this lockdown. But yes, obviously lockdown was for some other reason. During the British era, lot of draconian rules. When I say draconian rules, those rules are meant only for the Britishers to rule us. Such draconian rules were in place. All of them have been wound up. The laws have been amended. We don't follow most of them, but yet just to have of how being under a foreign power feels like. The nearest possible example which you would have experienced is a lockdown, because if you go out, the police will stop you. They may penalize you, they may prosecute you. That's the kind of situation. There's enormous power which was given to the law and order agency. Of course, it's guided by the elected government of India and by the elected government of Tamil Nadu. But those times, things were much tougher. We were not allowed our basic constitutional rights, what we say civilian rights. We didn't have those kind of rights for us to exercise. So the freedom part started way back in the 17th, 18th century when the British were actually in the country. They came here for trade through a company called East India Company. When they came in for trade, they realized that India is a land of potential. India is a land of wealth, and not only in terms of the gold we carried, not only in terms of the money we had, in terms of the intellectual capital. When I say intellectual capital, we were far ahead and way ahead of world's most of the countries during those times. For example, all the archaeological survey reports say the cultures like Indus Valley civilization, the Harappa Mohenjo-daro, our own culture which we have in Ariyalur. 3,000 years before and 2,000 years before, we had made a township with the integrated sewage line, which was not which was not possible, or it was never was existing in the Western world. When I say Western world, the European and American countries, as on today, they didn't have such a advanced living system, the civilized system, up till almost 16th century. Only when the 16th century came in, these things are all started coming in. So when the Britishers came in, it's not only about the wealth and the money and the kind of spices and the kind of rich heritage or the material value we had. We also had, as a country, we also had enormous amount of intellectual capital. So it's not only about British. The British invaded us, the French invaded us, the Portuguese invaded us, the Japanese want to invade us. Before British era, there was almost 700 years of Mughal rule. A lot of kings from Persia and Turkey, they came in, they ruled us for quite some time. So why was India as a country was targeted? It's not only because of the material heritage, as I said, it's also because of the intellectual heritage. The amount of knowledge we carried, an amount of books and the literature we had was way centuries and centuries ahead of any other country in the world. So let's take pride in the fact that we were one of the most advanced civilization in the world, and we were, and even today we are setting trends for the rest of the world to follow. Okay, now I'll just shift you back to the current situation where the country is in, slightly deviating from the topic, because this is where we need to know what is this country is all about, what is this concept of India is all about, what is we as a nation all about, right? In today, like I would say 1990s, we were the largest democracy in the world. Close to 90 crore people, 90 to 100 crore people go and vote. 1 billion people go and vote and choose an elected government. As on today, the latest example, November 2020, when the US elections happened, the country which is the number one in the world in terms of technology, in terms of money, in terms of power, in terms of its defense capabilities. We all dream about US. US is always known to be the dream land. Now compare their democratic process of conducting an election versus we as a nation conducting an election. There are a lot of countries, the democratic countries, which come to India to understand how do we conduct an election, how do we elect a government, on how fair and robust is our election process. So even today, we set example for the rest of the world to follow in many departments. Yes, we do lack in certain basic amenities like be it, 30% of our population is below the poverty line. We still don't have toilet facilities for everyone. We still don't have clean drinking water facilities for everyone. Yes, there are 100 things we can crib and complain about this country, but we as a nation, uh, I have to realize something. Almost close to 900 to 1000 years, we were under a foreign rule. We were not ruled by our own rulers or the leaders. We were under the foreign rule. There's a lot of bad things which we picked up from the Western world. There are a lot of good things. We left it or we moved away from our culture and tradition over a period of time. I may sound a bit old school for you. I may sound a bit conservative for you, but that's the reality. The example which I gave was the sanitation which we had 2000 years before, which the Western world never had till the 16th century. So, in this country, the major force which occupied us after the Mughal rule was the Britishers. Yes, French did occupy certain pockets of India. Portuguese did occupy certain pockets of India like Goa. But the major force which occupied was British. So there is a thought where there is couple of people or a couple of thought school of thought says yes, Britishers did rule us, but Britishers gave us railways, Britishers gave us roads, Britishers bought education to us, all this. But Britishers bought railways. It's not for the benefit of us. Britishers bought railways to strengthen their supply lines, what is called the supply chain today, because during their colonial rule in India, Britishers has to fight two major wars, that is World War One and World War Two. So we had the freedom movement happening across India in 2 to 3 different ways. One, people took arms. There was an armed rebel. There was an armed fight between various small leaders who rung up, in various parts of the country. Today, I could name the great warrior and a legend called Dhiran Chinnamalai, who's from Kangayam, Tamil Nadu. He stood up against the British, but he chose a path called armed conflict. He picked up weapons. He had his own army. He fought British. He allied with Tipu Sultan. He allied with a lot of other kings. He went and fought British in Mysore, and then he went and fought Britishers in Kerala and in Tamil Nadu. Ultimately, he was arrested and hanged at the later part of his life. So one way where our leaders fought was a armed conflict, and the major movement in that armed conflict was none other than the Azad Hind movement, which was guided by the Indian National Army, which was led by none other than the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. On the other side, we had the democratic way of, or the more we don't pick up arms and fight our enemies, we fight them democratically. The Satyagraha, right? There are other ways of this thing, non-tax-paying movement. So this movement was spearheaded by our father of the country, Mahatma Gandhi, who chose a different path than Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and we led the freedom struggle for quite almost 3 to 4 decades, and finally it helped us in getting the freedom. There is a third way of freedom fight, which was basis negotiation. So we all know a lot of information about the Indian National Army led by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, which was an armed conflict against the British. We fought them weapon to weapon, hand to hand. And then we had the Mahatma's movement, which believed in non-violence, which believed in democratic way of protest, and we kept on protesting, and then the movement went on for years and years and years. So it's too short a time for us to discuss that in detail. So majorly we know about these two movements. What I'm going to tell you, or what I'm going to give some awareness about the third front, which was basis the negotiations. Lot of Indian leaders, especially the kings from the north, starting Delhi, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Jammu and Kashmir, as we call Jammu and Kashmir today. To these parts of the country, there are a lot of kings who rule that place. For example, in Rajasthan, we had king of Bikaner, we had king of Jaipur, we had king of Jodhpur. So this is the small kingdoms which are earlier fighting among themselves, to ultimately to take their supremacy to the next territory. They did a lot of negotiations with the British. When I say negotiation, this may sound a bit weird, but this too also led to the freedom of our country. They aligned with British. They joined the British forces, the Imperial Army, the British Imperial Army. It's basically the British Army where the officers of the army were British and the Jawans were taken from all the countries which they rule. So India is one of the major country where they took their maximum soldiers from. At one point of time, post World War One, Britishers had a huge shortfall of officers in their rank and file. So they decided that we need to take Indian officers, where Britishers traditionally had a very strong offense to it because they considered themselves to be raciously, or they considered themselves to be supreme than the rest of the world. And there's a famous saying called "Sun never sets in the Eastern Empire." So that's a kind of the legacy and the supremacy they thought about themselves, and that's how they ruled this entire almost 2/3 of the world. But when situation came in, they couldn't fight a very formidable enemy who was rising at that time. It's none other than the Germany. So Germany was a fast uprising force between the period World War One and Two, and then Britishers couldn't actually cope up with them because Germany was far advanced in terms of their engineering capabilities. Germans were the first one to introduce the concept of machine guns in the battlefield. So they were technically very advanced. Their tanks were better. Their guns were better. The soldiers were much better trained. So Britishers did find a threat in terms of their kingdom being toppled by the Germans and its allied forces. So what they did was they spoke to these kings. They said, "You come and join us. You fight for us, and then we will give you the freedom once the war is over." So World War One, to all of your surprise, Indian Army fought in almost 17 countries across the world. When I say Indian Army, the Indian soldiers of then British Imperial Army went and fought various wars in various countries, especially all coming under the World War One. We fought in Belgium, we fought in Iraq, we fought in Iran, we fought all the way till Burma and today's Myanmar until the Far East, Southeast countries, almost bordering Japan. We fought in China. We lost thousands and thousands of your soldiers' life. So why the soldiers went and died for British Imperial Army? It is not that they wanted to join British Army for money. It's not that they wanted to earn. In those times, they didn't have proper salaries also. They were given food, and if you win, you are paid some money, and there's no structure of those perks and privileges which we have in the modern world today. So why they went and fought? They went and fought because the negotiation between us, when I say us, it's not the Gandhis and the Nehrus and the Netaji. It's about those smaller kings. Even in Tamil Nadu, we have a lot of smaller kings who had sent their forces to fight for British across the world. So once the World War One era was over, the world could actually feel the capabilities of an Indian soldier, the grit, the determination, and the amount of loyalty they had among their masters. So British wanted to raise India as their formidable force within the British Army. Then it was called British Imperial Army. So they invested a lot of time, effort, and money in building up this. So World War II, when it was closed by 1935, when they wanted to do a mass recruitment of soldiers and officers from India for their army, that's the time they went and said, even certain leaders of those time Congress, the Indian National Congress, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and a lot of other leaders were also part of that negotiation. Yes, we will help you out in World War II. We will fight for you, but under a condition, once the war is over, you need to hand back the country back to us, and we want a democratic rule here. We don't want any more British rule here. So British has agreed for this. Britishers did agree for this. They said, okay, you go ahead and fight for us. You defend our country. You defend our interest, the colonial rule. in various other countries, we will give you the freedom what you want. So freedom struggle is not about the Mahatma Gandhi's movement of non-violence, or it's not only about the Indian National Army led by Subhash Chandra Bose, the armed conflict. In between these two, there is a major chunk of it which your history books haven't told you, and it is there. Today it's a world of internet and YouTube and social media and Wikipedia. You can go and do your research on it. There are a lot of good books which is available in terms of role of Indian Army in Indian freedom struggle, which was less talked about. Why this was less talked about is because the army and the soldiers who went and fought for British, they were not political, so they were never highlighted. Even in today's scenario, the army, the navy, the air force, the police, the paramilitary forces, the doctors, the public health servants who fight for us, they will never be spoken about because they are not political. It's always the political leadership which will all get highlighted. That's how the world moves, nothing wrong in it. So when this part of struggle which was happening, so Indian soldiers under British Army, Indian soldiers and Indian officers went and fought in World War II across the world. When I mean across the world, it's across the world. Any one of you, when tomorrow you will pick up some employment within the country or outside the country, if at all you happen to go to Belgium, there's a war memorial in Belgium. There is a Deepa Jyoti, what you call, Anaya Vilakku nama solluvom. There's a 24/7 burning lamp which has been kept in the memory of the fallen soldiers for the protection of Belgium. So Belgium was one of the most affected country by the German those times. So Indians went and fought for Belgium. They stood in Belgium. Thousands of soldiers lost lives. If I have to give a number of how many lives we lost fighting for the British to get that freedom, is roughly anywhere between 6 to 8 lakh soldiers officially recorded. These many soldiers died fighting for us. They didn't fight for British Army for money, as I said. They fought for our freedom. So Belgium today, if you go, there is a parade or there's a remembrance which happens every day evening at I think 5 o'clock. I've been there, and once in my life I've been there, and I was standing there. I was not aware of this entire thing which was happening. And suddenly everybody stood and saluted, and there was a bugle which was going on. There was a, when I say bugle, there's a war music which is going on, and everybody stood there, and the flag hoisting was going on. And then I happened to ask them that what it is. It said we were saluting our fallen soldiers who helped us secure this country during World War II, and we especially thank our Indian soldiers who stood for us. If India would have not been there, if Indian soldiers would have not been there, we don't know how many lives we would have lost under the German army. And I introduced myself that I am an ex-soldier of Indian Army. I surprisingly got a standing ovation. They all stood up and they clapped for me. They saluted me. That's the kind of spirit they have, and that's the kind of remembrance they have for the Indian Army. For all those who are in Chennai, if you take a route from Gindi towards Punamalli, just before the Chennai Trade Center, keep that towards your left. Just before that, there's a signal. There's I think a Sangeeta hotel is there. Opposite to that, towards your right side, will be a war memorial. Whenever you get a chance, just go to the war memorial and see. There is a lot of fallen soldiers whose memory has been retained. They have built a war memorial there. You will see a lot of cemeteries. If you go and read that, you will understand what I'm talking about. Because lot of when I say lakhs and lakhs of soldiers have sacrificed their life only for one reason, for the sake of independence of our great nation. So this part is less spoken about. This part is not known to most of the people. So it is about the non-violent movement which Mahatma Gandhi led, and there is an armed violent movement which was led by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and there is a negotiation movement wherein we supported the British in terms of in an agreement to get our freedom back. So this is a three-pronged approach. Though Netaji never agreed with Mahatma Gandhi on the non-violence movement, vis-a-vis Mahatma Gandhi never agreed with the violent movement of Netaji. But all this led us what we enjoy today, the freedom. We have the freedom to speak, We can speak whatever we want. We have the freedom to express. We have the freedom to worship what we want. I may worship a god. I may not worship. I may be atheist. Absolutely, there is no compulsion. That's the freedom we enjoy today. And we are a free nation. But again, when I say that, when we compare ourselves with a Western country or an American nation or a, or even a Southeast or an Asian nation, we should always remember one thing: we were under a foreign rule, Mughal rule, and a British rule for close down to almost 900 years. It's just 75 years of time we have taken from our freedom till date, and we are the fifth largest economy in the world. We are a nuclear superpower. Our missile technologies are far ahead. We are in Star Wars trilogy. So in 75 years, we have moved leaps and bounds in various fields like space research, in our weaponry, in our defense, in lot of ways of lives. We are the manufacturing of our automobiles. We are the IT brain for the entire world. We are the biggest IT service providers for the entire world, and we are number one in various aspects of agriculture, be it milk export or be it the grain export. There are a lot of other places where we lack, as I said, water, the basic amenities. We are bad in terms of our corruption. The country is high in terms of corruption. The country is high in terms of accidental deaths. So those those parameters is what we need to improve. So there is a 75 years of rule where these great people have given their lives, they've given their sweat, blood, and everything to get this freedom for us. This 75 years, 4 different generations have got us to where we are now. And from here on, 2022 to 2000 or 2100, next 70 years, it will be you and your next generation which will take this country forward. So don't get negative about the bad things of this country. Yes, we are doing this, we are doing that. In US, life was big, and US got independence 500 years before. So we can never have a comparison with a country which has got an independence 500 years before. Then with a country which has been, we are a very young nation. We are just 75 years old officially as India. So we need to understand that this freedom what we are experiencing and enjoying today hasn't come for free. Even today, every one of us are paying a price to it. Every one of us are paying a price to it. As we speak today, just before I got on this call at 4:59 sharp. I was in conversation with one of my friend who's my batchmate who's posted in Leh. The temperature right now there is minus 21, and he has been out of his family. His kid is in 6th standard. He has been out of his family for almost 6-7 months now. He has faced hard winters, and they are facing a very, very formidable enemy called China. Right? So today they are standing guard. They are protecting us. What does that protection mean? It's the price we pay for our freedom. 2 weeks before, we lost close to 23 soldiers on a Maoist attack in Chhattisgarh. What do? Why do they die? They die for our freedom. So today's freedom comes every day. The price we pay for freedom is quite high. So when we say freedom, it's not about putting a flag on my chest, saluting, and just putting the DPs and social media messages, the flooded messages we have. Freedom is not a one-time affair. We have to be responsible each and every day. I'm not saying every one of you to go and join Army, Navy, or Air Force. No, not that. When we speak about this country, take some pride. Take some pride in speaking about this country. Yes, I said we have a lot of places where we need to improve. Definitely, we will improve. We are improving and we are a growing nation. Be it keeping our surroundings clean, be it a Swachh Bharat mission, be it your college campuses, be it your home, you be the example of what you want the country to be. Like the Mahatma Gandhi said, the change starts with yourself first. Obviously, I strongly believe in this because I can give you a lot of historic facts that is going to be that may not sound interesting. I'm just slightly deviating from the freedom struggle we had to understand what is the cost we are paying for the freedom first, right? So Indian Army and the Indian National Army and Gandhiji's movement, these were the 3 major pillars for us to get the freedom. There are a lot of countries which fought only an armed conflict against the British. They took a lot of time to get independence. And from there, by then they lost so much of their resources and everything. They couldn't prosper in their post-independence period. India is one country. Britishers have looted us. It's not that railways which they gave us free, or it is not that Western education which gave us free. It is all for their own good. I'll tell you one best example. We all know about the farm laws and the controversies going behind it. This farm law, this price control was started way back by British. Manchester used to be the world's textile capital. The entire textile were made in Manchester and were exported to the entire world. Manchester was then called the textile capital of the world. Manchester did only the stitching. They made only the garments, right? Like what Tirupur does now, or what Coimbatore or Bangalore or even Sri Lanka does, or Jalandhar does. They did that way before, 200 years before. So they were the textile hub of the world. Where did they get the cotton from? India was the largest producer of cotton at that time. And you know what was the rule? They said, you have to grow cotton. You have to sell it only to me. I will open up a market. All your farmers have to come there. I will fix the price. Those times the cotton used to be sold for annas. It's not even 20-30 paise in today's currency. Nevertheless, that's the kind of control we had. Britishers took all the cotton from here. They went and stitched garments and then they exported it back. And you know what the Western world said? They said Indians are filthy people. Indians are not worth wearing the shirt. Indians were called semi-nudes, half-naked people, where they just wear a dhoti, nothing covers their upper body. So that's the time Gandhi started this weaving movement. You would have seen him with a manual weaving machine. That's how it started. We said we will make our own cloth. We will make our own industry. And that industry later came as Khadi industry. Khadi industry today is flourishing again. Any one of you who look at a career today, Khadi industry is one of the world's potential market, because that's pure cotton that is indigenously made. I would say I make sure in 10 of my shirts which I wear, 2, 3 of 8 are made from Khadi, because that's a affair which has got to do a lot with the freedom movement. So Britishers demeaned us. Never ever buy this logic. I can debate hundreds and hundreds of hours together with any intellectual person who says Britishers gave us education, Britishers gave us railways, Britishers gave us culture. It's not the case. They did their railway lines, they put their railway lines to rule this country, to ensure their army is fed. They took all the grains from here. During 1950s and 50s and 60s, even in 1910 to 20, lakhs and lakhs of people died out of famine. You would have not heard the word called famine, because today's generation in India, we have surplus food everywhere. We eat more, we become obese, and then we talk about weight reduction, running, jogging, being fit, gymming and all. Those days, we didn't have those much of food to eat. So when the country faces something like we don't have food to eat, it's called a famine. Panjam no sulvanga, right? Lakhs and lakhs of people died. Why? Because Britishers took the grains away from here to feed their army, which was fighting in the Europe and other countries. So Britishers never did anything good to us. They looted so much of gold. They looted so much of money. They looted so much of intellectual capital. When I speak about intellectual capital, they actually looted a lot of intellectual capital. If we put a money value to it, if I say today, if I have all those, if I sell it today, it will run in trillions and trillions of dollars. And India, thumpingly, way ahead of America, would have been the world's wealthiest country and the largest GDP or any economic index. We would have been the largest and the number one country. Yes, because of a foreign rule, we faced it, and it took lakhs and lakhs of lives during this freedom movement. As I said, the 3 pillars, where we kind of about to overthrow the British. By then, Britishers gave us the freedom. Britishers should have actually given the freedom to us in 1942. 1942 to 47, Britishers were very weak. By then, Indian National Army under this movement called Azad Hind. Those who don't know Hindi, Azad means independence, Hind means Hindustan, independent India. By then, the Azad Hind flag was already hoisted. We were almost ruling around lakhs and lakhs of square miles of land in independent India. So the actual independence we got it in 1942. But because there is a major transition which happened, Britishers still wanted to have their control on India. So that time, the winning president, Prime Minister of British, Winston Churchill, post winning the World War II, unfortunately lost the election and he was the opposition leader. When the new Prime Minister came in, when he decided to give freedom for India, Winston Churchill appraised this. He said India has got too much of problems as on today. They will not be able to rule themselves, and a lot of people will die because of religious bias and all this. So we should not be giving freedom to them. Nevertheless, they took 4 or 5 years. Lord Mountbatten was sent into India as a viceroy, and then he was told to supervise. So what Britishers cleverly did is to put a wedge on this country and divided this country religiously. So that's how Pakistan was born. So there was a lot of riots which was happening between Hindus and Muslims during those times, in 1942 to 1947. This rift was created by British, which is a strategic move or a strategy which even works till today. It's called divide and rule. When you have such a big country like India, where we have different of languages, thousands of languages, religious identities, thousands of caste, community, and independent identity, how do you rule them? It's just to divide them, make them fight among themselves, and you sit and watch. So it is applicable even today. The politicians are doing it even today. But I am restricting my speech to the India's freedom struggle. We had a time where they literally divided us in terms of Hindus and Muslims. So there are a lot of riots happening across the country, especially the northern part of the country. So that's a time when they created a country basis the religion. Now we need to understand one thing: if you divide a country basis an ideology, the country can always unite back. For example, East Germany and West Germany. East Germany was communist, West Germany was capitalist. South Vietnam, North Vietnam. North Vietnam was communist, South Vietnam was capitalist. North Korea, South Korea. East Germany and West Germany, they broke a wall, the country got united, it became Germany. South Vietnam, North Vietnam became one Vietnam, they became a country. But this was cleverly done by British. When you divide a population or when you divide a mass or a country basis the religion, it becomes impossible for them to get back again. So that's what has happened between India and Pakistan. Pakistan became an Islamic republic and India became a sovereign republic. So these are two different things. When I say Islamic republic, the country is following a Islamic law. I declare myself as an Islamic nation. But as far as our country is concerned, we are a sovereign republic. That's why we celebrate our 26th Jan as our Republic Day, 1952. We said we will follow a sovereign republic. We have a constitutional framework. We have our constitution, and we all will abide by the constitution. There is no one religion which is superior than the other. Everybody has the equal rights, irrespective of caste, creed, and religion we have. Now, one of you may question me: is it over? Are we all living in a society where there is no religion, there is no caste or something? We are not. But we have progressed. What it used to be in 1950s, 60s, and 2000s. Today we are a much progressed world, and we are still progressing. As I said, the answer, excuse me, to this question is we are just 75-year-old nation. We are pretty young. We are like teenagers. Each one of you would have done some mistakes. And when I was a teenager, I did a lot of mistakes. We are bound to do mistakes. We will be a matured individual. We are young by blood. Our country's 50% population, almost 60% population is less than 35 years of old. We are the most youngest country in the world, even by age factor as well. So we will take some more time to become what we want, but the journey has to be taken forward by none other than, I can see around 104 people out here. You can take this message to everyone. So please understand, there are billions of lives which we have lost, whom we have given for the freedom, and even today we are losing lives. We are losing lives not only at the border, even in the internal conflict, we lose a lot of lives for us to secure that freedom. Freedom is not free. I always tell in most of my colleges when I interact with young people, why shouldn't I do it? Your social media comments, abusing someone personally or hurting someone personally. I can see, there's been widespread. People go and attack somebody on, very personally. Sometimes I get a lot of nasty comments. about my interviews, about what I speak and all. You can have difference of opinion with me, or you can have a difference of opinion with anybody else. You can fight the ideology, you can fight the point or the fact which the person or she goes wrong, but you should never fight a person, body shame a person, or you go and hurt them by their caste, color, or creed. That is totally wrong. Which is the only concern which I feel for the current generation, which are like 95 to 2005 kids, where most of you are born in that age bracket. Never ever do that, because if you do that, it's plain and simple. None of these lectures, the flag which we wear on our chest, it doesn't matter, because we don't value our freedom, we don't respect our freedom. Whom you are fighting is a fellow citizenship. They are the fellow citizens. Abusing girls online, body shaming them. Even the girls do boys, but I'm saying majorly about this. Please don't do this. In today's scenario, we are facing the worst ever crisis. In my childhood, or even whatever time till I studied my engineering, later on my MBA, no, I never had seen an online class. It is new to me. I've been giving these lectures online. I've been getting used to it. You are the only generation. Possibly you will see such a lockdown. There is a pandemic. 40 years of my life, this is the first pandemic I am also seeing. When you have such a big lesson, what does this country need today? Just to get away from this pandemic, to control this pandemic, to control this, the number of deaths which is happening and the kind of chaos which is happening in the country, there are only two things we need to do: wear a mask while going out, maintain some sort of social distance when we interact with people, and just to cut down on our recreational activities like going for a movie, or going and hanging around with friends as a group or so. This is very basic, but we as a country, we are struggling to do this. We are struggling big time, and today the cases per day cases have reached to 2,20,000 and above. Why? Because of one simple reason. It's not about the government. It's not that we have bad doctors. It's not about we are a bad nation. No, it is lack of responsibility. We don't enjoy our freedom, or we don't value our freedom responsibly. That's a single reason why we are suffering as on today. Look at a country like South Korea, which is very, very close to China, or look at Japan. You interact with them during your students interaction program or some part of life you go in, they take pride saying that I'm a Japanese. This is the way I will behave. This is the way I will do things, and this is my discipline. So discipline starts with you. Take this as a chance. Again, I'm just slightly drifting away from the freedom struggle, because today we are facing much, much, much equal or a bigger struggle as of today. We need to value, we need to respect those thousands and lakhs of people who have given their entire life for the safety of us, the freedom we enjoy today. All we can do today, as on today, is those three things which I spoke about. Okay. Now to finally sum it up to 3-4 minutes, I'll introduce you to one person whom is like you can hardly find about him. You can Google about his name. Who played a vital role in the India's freedom movement is Colonel Mahbub Ahmed. Colonel Mahbub Ahmed was then an Indian officer in the British Imperial Army during World War One. He joined British for the same reason which I told in the start of the lecture, to get independence for a country. Later on, he moved from Indian Army, the British Army, to Indian National Army. He joined Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in 1941. 1941 is the time where Netaji came to India and took over the command of Indian National Army. Indian National Army at that point of time had around 70,000 soldiers fighting British. Trust me, I'll not take you into the military thing, but it's a worth read. We all speak about the special forces and the Israeli Mossad and the US Marines and stuff. Indian National Army was a much more a formidable force those times. Britishers they were really fearing about the Indian National Army, right? So this gentleman, Colonel Mahbub Ahmed, he joined Indian National Army in 1941, and he was appointed as the Army Secretary by Netaji. He was a right-hand man of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He was one person who played a vital role in integrating the military strategy, the political strategy, and the foreign affairs. Believe me, today in the current age, We have around 15 IAS and IFS officers, Indian administrative and foreign officers, who do this job. There are 3 ministries doing this job, but he single-handedly led the INAS, India's foreign affairs, India's military strategy, and he also played a vital role in India's political strategy. So he stood with Netaji as his right-hand man. He helped Netaji, or he advised Netaji the right things to do. In fact, when Netaji decided to take the help of Germany to fight against the enemy, which is British, it's nothing but, so Netaji also took the same approach. He went and approached Germany to fight against the British. The Germans did help us, the Japanese did help us. So that's how he joined Indian National Army. He played a vital part in doing these negotiations with the British. Netaji also spoke to the French army. They were also in touch with the French army to help out this thing. So he, as a army secretary, did an extraordinary job in this entire this thing. So one side of the thing, when the Indian army soldiers were fighting for the British, on the other hand, Indian National Army was fighting for the Japanese. They faced the toughest time in Burma. When the Burma war was happening, they faced the toughest time in Burma. So Colonel Mahbub was the one who led this entire field, the entire battle during those times. He was the pioneer and the key man in providing the uniforms, medicines, and the medical facilities for the troops which lay on ground. So 1945, British government, then British government, issued a red alert on him, and he was arrested along with a few other leaders of Indian National Army. He was jailed. He was charged for treason. Treason means Desadrogam. He was charged for treason, and later on, post-independence, 1948, he was released. And so he had one career joining the British Army as an army officer, Indian Army officer. Just imagine the kind of level of merit you need to have. He fought for the British, again for the country, for the single sake of freedom struggle. Then he later on aligned with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He fought for Indian National Army. Post-independence, 1948 to 1991, when he died, he led the foreign affairs for India. He was our ambassador for Iraq post-independence. Played a very, very vital role in Nehru's government, those times, our first government. And he continued to contribute to the country in terms of upliftment of Bihar. He was from Bihar. So as a diplomat, as a retired diplomat, he continued to live in India, and he continued to live for the upliftment of Bihar till the time he died on 9 June 1992. So Colonel Mahbub Ahmad, a less spoken hero of this freedom struggle, whom I wanted to introduce, a quick nutshell about him. You can Google him, you can read a lot about him. If you ask me personally, what would be a satisfactory life for me? If I could live at least 1% of his life, I'd be the most happiest man when I die. So we don't have to search our heroes. Yes, we do have a lot of startup stories, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and whatnot. Just refer back to our history, pick up these great men. I would say you don't have to look for your life lessons and motivation anywhere else. These are the great freedom fighters who gave us the freedom as we enjoy today. I slightly overshot the time by I think 5 minutes or so. I'll end the lecture here. So open to you, each one of you, if you have any questions or if you have any comments or feedback on whatever we spoke for the couple of 50 odd minutes or so, we're open to do so. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, sir. An excellent lecture. So wide knowledge that you have in this field that is evident from your speech, and it's very interesting that we came to know that we don't know many things. The other side, what just we come to know only what people speak, and such things were not spoken outside. So thank you very much for enlightening us in this. That we know only these two things. Generally, one side is Ahimsa way of fighting, and this other side is Indian National Army is fighting, and we don't know the third side. I came to know with you. Thank you very much for showing us the third side also. Um, and I would like to ask only one question that might be from your personal side. So, may I know why you have came out from Indian Army, sir?
I had a injury in my neck that
Oh,
hurt my cervical spine.
okay,
So after that, I was not qualified for the combat duties. I was moved into the admin side of it. I
okay,
really didn't join army for that. As
okay,
so that's the reason I thought I'll move out of army and look for a second career also. Very painful decision, but life moves on.
okay, sir. But you are doing a lot of things in YouTube. I used to see your videos, many of your videos also.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. So I hope cadets will interact with sir to have your doubts, if any. So can you throw some light on that depth railway in Burma, so where many of our Indian soldiers were working?
I couldn't get you, sir.
Some death railway track that was laid in Burma.
It's a detailed topic, but I'll just try to summarize it. It's supposed to be one of the one of the non-textbook example of military win. It is a battle which is impossible. It was impossible to win. It was really tough to win. But Indian Army, Indian soldiers have their own grit and determination to do it. It's a very textbook example of thinking, orthodox thinking. We all do a thing in a regular way, but it actually was a bit of orthodox thinking, which led us that win. I'll just send you. I'll send you possibly a good read about it, 5-page read about it. It's a very
Okay.
interesting one. I think I
Okay.
got some questions, sir. What is the difference between patriotism and nationalism? A very good question. Nationalism is what I told you. It's about the sense of belongingness to my country. I belong to my country. I have some values as an Indian. Uh, Nationalism is a fever. It's a very positive fever which binds us. There are hundreds of things which kind of divides us. There's hundreds of things which divides us. We have caste, we have religion, we have interstate differences. North people eat roti, we eat rice, and East people eat something else. So there are a lot of divisions which we have among us as a people and among us as a this thing. But what unites us as a country is one simple thing called the sense of belongingness as a nation. We as a nation have a strong binding, which kind of conceals and comes. This is over and above the feel of being a Tamilian, the feel of being like I'm from my native from Coimbatore district. So I feel that I'm from Congo land. I have some affinity to it. I have some affinity to my people, or I have affinity to my state, language, religion, whatever it is. Nationalism is way above this. This is the binding force of this entire country. This one thing binds us. Now coming to patriotism. Patriotism is the next level of nationalism. So we are like I'll tell you my example. When I was during my second year of college, Kargil war was fought, and we all wanted to contribute. I was in my second year of my engineering, so we all wanted to contribute. We don't know how. So we were trying to group up, and then we said we need to do something for the country. And we never had Facebook, we never had social media to even post our views. So we said we need to do something about the country. We didn't have anything to know. We were 10 of us, school, our college mates, and a couple of us. We said, but we need to do something. So we went and did some shows, and we tried to collect some money. We got some good dancers from our batch. So they did some social program. We got some money. I think those times it was 1,000, 2,000 rupees or so, but we went and deposited in the Prime Minister Fund. So that is all. That is called nationalism. A lot of people came together. In fact, Tamil Nadu was the number one contributor for Kargil Vijay Fund during those times. This is nationalism. Now, what is patriotism? my seniors who are in the final year, 99, a couple of people who have already cleared their TOEFL, who wanted to go for their higher studies and other places in other countries. They had their secure job, but that's a time where IT boom happened during my generation. So those people, they said, no, we are not going to do that. I'm not going to go to US. I'm not going to go to Europe or something. I'm going to be here and I'm going to join the forces. So that time, 2 years elder to me, a lot of people went and joined Army, Navy, and Air Force. Those people are still there doing this thing. This is what is called patriotism, something which is pushing you. One is being responsible and being the sense of belongingness is called nationalism. One is taking that responsibility on your shoulders and doing that extra mile is called patriotism. Hope I could have explained something. Okay, Deepika, good evening, sir. How can we contribute to the freedom of India in present scenario as a student? Deepika, three things we all have to do, whether as a student, whether as something that as of now, the country is facing an economic war. It's just not a virus, it's an economic war. The impact of it is very, very severe and it's going to affect a lot and lot of people for generations to come. So we need to be socially responsible. I would say each one of us became a brand ambassador of this country. Right? When I say brand ambassador, like we take a trip on a highway, we are in a car, I pick up a bottle of Coke, I have it, I can just throw it on the road. Nobody is going to question me. Nobody is going to punish me. I can just throw it on the road and move on. But if I think for a moment that it is my country which I'm throwing, it's my country which I'm making it dirty, I would put it in a bag and when I find a dustbin, I can put it there. So these are the small little things which we can contribute. And to the freedom, yes, what we speak, we need to speak responsibly. We have all the rights to speak. We have all the rights to, Dr. Padmanabhan may tell you something which you may differ. So you should actually debate or contradict on his views, not on your professor. Similarly, on your social media, your friends, your peers, somebody puts a photo, he or she may look bad, that's fine. But when we comment about them or body shame them, that becomes bad. So we as a country, I would expect each one of you to enjoy the freedom responsibly and to be the change what we want to be. So today I will emphasize on some basic thing, mask, maintain some distance. And when you see somebody out in your apartment, Deepika, Harshit, Gopinath, who are asked questions, thanks to you and for others who are not asked, I'll still tell you one thing. Be firm, be polite, walk up to them. Firstly, you wear a mask, tell them, sir, or younger to you, elder to you, sir, madam, whatever it is, please wear your mask for your safety and my safety. As of today, that's all we can do. Once you all graduate, you'll do your MTechs, you'll do your this thing. There are a lot of spaces where we need to really progress. Cryogenics, the aircraft engines, we still are not making our own aircraft. We're still buying the engine for even our own pages. These are the places where we can contribute to the next level. Cadet Sri Sundari, we have always read that divisions deepen to become discriminations, and we are very well aware that divisions cannot be removed, but discrimination can be stopped. In the present scenario, how long will it take to eradicate discrimination? Good question. Discrimination, as I told you, we need to, what we are seeing is what we see today, but we need to see every 10 years before. Because 10 years, every 10 years, decade is like what the country either changes for good or changes for bad. So what discrimination we used to have in 1980s is not happening now. Because it's a very, very open and a common word, it's not happening now. As we progress from 2021 to maybe next 30 years or 20 years or 30 years or so, this discrimination will move. So I'll just say, Sundari, Sri Sundari, tomorrow, for example, you are down 5 years, you are a manager of a company and you have 10 people working under you. So you as a person can ensure that those 10 people are not discriminated for the way they look, the caste, creed, and religion, whatever they may be. It may be women or it may be male. Right? We all speak about women's rights. We also have to speak about men's rights as well. Right? So when discrimination means discrimination about everything. When each one of us start thinking that way, in my sphere of life, okay, I run a small company. I have around 20, 25, 30 odd people working with me. So the one discrimination measure we have is we all eat the same food. There are a couple of Muslims, there are a couple of Hindus, there are Christians, and there are people from north and south. We all eat in the same plate. We all eat what we want. If one guy says that today I am fasting for because of my religious belief, we don't eat non-veg. It's as simple as it. So we are trying to make a space. I am trying to make a space where the people who work with me or under me or people who work with me are not discriminated in terms of caste, creed, or religion. If everybody starts doing it, this becomes a mass movement. Once this becomes a mass movement, politicians can never play their politics in this. Till such time we become the change agent. We started. It's not going to happen. How much of time? I'm leaving it to your generation. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Jain, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one question, sir. We can also end up the British without participating in the World War II, no, sir?
You want to be a bit louder, Vignesh?
Yes, sir. So we can also end up the British without participating in the World War II, no, sir? But we have participated in the World War II. Are we forced to join the war or what?
No. How can they force 8 lakh people, almost a million people, to join forces? So it was not that as a case. As I said, there was one negotiation which was going on with the British government, because for the British, it's either do or die. See, look at it this way: whether India participated in World War II or not, that's a different story. Just look at it this way: if Britishers would have lost World War II,
yes, sir.
Germans would have won.
Yes, sir.
Who will rule India then? Germans or British? Obviously, Germans. Because British will not lose in their homeland and can rule in the entire world. It's a colonial rule, right? So if the British government falls there, it's going to fall across the world. So for the British, it was do or die. Either they win or they lose their kingdom across the world, including their own country. Britain is a very small country. It's not even bigger than Tamil Nadu, right? So British was in the compulsion to win the war, and to win the military war, you need to have a very, very strong military, and to need to have a very strong military, you need to have Indian soldiers there. That's where we negotiated. That's where we bargained, which none of the textbooks book, which I overemphasized in this period of 1 hour. We played a vital role in this final freedom struggle. If we would have not participated in World War II, for whatever reasons, British would have lost their battle, or British loses and American intervene, and then American. So this world's dynamics today would have been different. Possibly most of us would have been speaking in German.
Yes, sir. So one more thing, sir. That means you are saying that the extremist part of India is also with British Army, no, sir?
You can't call them extremists. This is a strategic move. I fight for you, you give me freedom. It's an agreement.
Yes, sir.
I fight for you, you give me freedom.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you are like you. We both are fighting, right? We both are enemies. You are fighting, and today you are a bigger guy, and you have a bigger enemy to handle you. And then you come back and say that yes, you help me out. We will keep our fight later. You help me out. You help me out in this. I will move out of your home. That's a kind of arrangement we have.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See, even today it is happening. Even today it's happening. China became a threat to the world. Right? China became a threat to the world. Now that's the time we said, okay, the world is now telling us, even including US and all, US was supposed to put us on sanction because we bought S-400 missile system from Russia, right? But what they said, no, give us vaccines. We will deal with it later. So a lot of things were given open for India, right? A lot of things open for India because we exported vaccine. We'll keep our fight later. So it's a vaccine war which is happening today. It's actually happened during 1939 to 42.
Yes, sir.
Okay, one more question from Sri Sundari. What are the best ways to induce change in the society other than being the change ourselves? Yeah, being the change ourselves. Sundari was one thing. Whenever things happen for good, there will always be resistance. There will always be some kind of restriction to it. The moment we cross that threshold, this change becomes infectious. Okay, I'll give you a classical example of how people behave in a local train in Chennai, and the same set of people how they behave in Chennai metro. The metro is clean. The metro is absolutely clean. It's so hygienic. It's so pleasant to look. It's good to travel. But when you come from a metro and travel in a local train, the things are very different. People spit. People talk loud. People do throw garbage. All these things happen. Why it's the same set of people. They don't do this in metro because when everybody starts doing that thing, when more like in a group of 10 people, more than 2-3 people start doing a thing, the rest of the 70% population, I would say 80% of the population will follow this 20. So this is a global rule even in business. The 1% are always leaders. The 19% are influencers. The leaders will lead, the influencers will make it a movement, and the rest 80% are just followers. So I'm talking about this 1%. This 1% changes us. We start doing it. Like I go for a run, close to my home in the outer ring road. So I go, I wear a mask. I keep pointing out at people, yeah, please wear a mask. Now it's been almost 7 to 8 months now. They all wear a mask. And it's not that I'm so huge or I go and punch them. No, it's not the case. They're much stronger than me. But at least when they see me, they lift up the mask and they wear the mask. So down 8 months, the first day, possibly I was the only fool among those people who are running to wear a mask. Now today, there are one or people new runners who come in or new people who come in, they don't wear a mask. Later, they also wear a mask. So you got it right. That's how the change starts with us. Then we have influences to do it. And then we have the rest of the population to follow. So any other questions?
Okay. No other questions, then you can propose the vote of thanks.
The essence of all beautiful art is gratitude. Now we have Cadet Kavya M to deliver the vote of thanks.
It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. First, I thank our guest speaker, Major Madhan Kumar, who spared his time from his busy schedule to grace this webinar. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your words on India's freedom struggle. I also express my heartfelt thanks to our associate NCC officers, Captain Dr. Suresh Babu A, Lieutenant Dr. Padmanabhan Panju K, Lieutenant Dr. Neelakandan R, for their continued support and encouragement. Last but not the least, we are very grateful to all the participants for making this webinar a resounding success. Once again, I thank one and all present here. Jai Hind.
So thank you all for your valuable time. I'm humbled and honored. It's really been a wonderful time to spend with you all. So a couple of you, if anybody who wants kind of guidance, career guidance in terms of what career to choose in defense, or even I have my own bit of experience in supply chain management, and also with defense, I guide a lot of people. You can get in touch with me, and I'll drop my mobile number to you. I think Vignesh has already had it. Sri Sundari, one last question, sir. Are we really free? Absolutely, we are really free. We are enjoying. We are talking to each other. You are asking me a lot of questions. We are free. This freedom is a journey. It's not a one-day affair. So get in touch with me if you have any sort of career advice. I'm just typing my email ID. You can reach me out over the phone as well if I don't pick up or because of my commitments. So you can always put a text to me. I will guide you, and anybody who's keen to pick up running as an hobby, or I am not into gym and all. Only thing I run. I've been doing that for lots of years in my life. I can be your running coach as well. And anybody who wants to teach me something, I'm more than welcome. I make it a point. That's my New Year resolution. Every year I try to pick up something. One of a bright young kid, I think she's in the final year, so she's been teaching me photography. I've been trying to become a photographer now. So one last thing, which Doctor Professor will also agree, or maybe he may not agree. Take life easily, attempt and do the fullest for whatever you are pursuing in terms of a career. Go for it, do your best, and just don't be bothered about the result. If you want to do it, just put your full heart and soul in doing it. Or you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't do it for the sake of the salary. There are 1,000 ways of earning money, legal ways. Don't worry about it. Don't take unnecessary load. And one thing which I, during my last interaction, 2-3 days before with students of JPR Engineering College, I asked one guy. He said, "Yeah, they asked me technical questions in military selection for the officer entry." I said, "How does an helicopter works?" So he didn't have answer. The answer he gave me was, "Last 1.5 years the classes were not happening. Guys and girls, believe me, you have something called YouTube. I can watch behind notes, I can watch news glitz, pass away my time, or I can just randomly pick up one physics topic or subject of your interest and can master yourself there." Okay, people have made sophisticated bombs while learning from YouTube. Okay, so nothing stops you. Keep the learning going. There's nothing called end. Okay, and your degrees and all can happen. Also, take time to enjoy life. Now, enjoyment of life is important. Don't have too much of targets that I want to do this in my life. I want to earn millions and billions. Money will follow. Just follow your passion and follow it with some responsibility. And you can always, kind of keep it like simple and easy life. And whatever you want, you'll get it. Don't worry. And even if you don't get it, you'll get something else. So don't take too much of stress in your life. I'll not advise you anything academically, because I was just an average student in my engineering, scoring about 60% or so. I know 90% of you would have been 90 or 99% of you would be much better. That's why you guys are in university. So take enjoy every part of your life. And this is the golden age. I'll underline the word golden age. Like all of my college mates, we meet, and couple of people have. I always go in my Royal Enfield. Couple of people come in Audi and stuff. Yeah, today we all have money, and there's an amount of money. God's grace, we have been doing well. But one thing is, we still misses our like college life. I thoroughly enjoyed my life. So enjoy your life. Stay happy. Stay safe. Keep your parents safe. As I said, be responsible. Enjoy your freedom. Thanks to all of you. I will once things settle in, possibly I would like to meet you all when you are back to your campuses. Till then, Jai Hind.